midst of some of the heaviness, let's look at something exciting. Instead of continuing to dwell on what may be the negativity and the fear in our world right now, let's talk about the power and possibility of God. Now, I'm going to go quickly through a little bit of a recap on the change, the why, and the what, because I think we need that as we lead into the how. So bear with me as I may be throwing this out really quick, but this is all stuff you've already heard, and it all came out in the first 2 weeks that we did this. So Craig Rochelle said this. We had this quote: "The mission is constant, but how we accomplish the mission must change." Okay? We talked about how the greatest threat to future success is current success, believing that the way we've always done things is going to continue to work in that way, despite everything else that changes around us. And his idea that the mission is constant, but how we accomplish the mission must change, it fits as the one thing that we can never try to change. We said that the what and the how, yeah, we can change the what and the how, but the why is something that never changes, because the why is the message and the mission of Jesus. But we struggle with the idea of these changes. We struggle with the idea of stepping out of that current success and looking at the possibility of what the future could bring, and we do that because of comfort. We like where we're at. We like what we're doing. We like the way it's always been. And so we struggle to battle against that. But comfort ends up being an enemy of progress. It's what keeps that future success from being realized. You can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both. So we looked at the why. And the why started this way, Matthew 28, with the Great Commission, that we're to make disciples, that we're to baptize, that we're to build relationships and bring people to the knowledge of Jesus. And we looked at part of how that works in Mark chapter 10, where Jesus himself came to serve, not to be served. And so we should exemplify that. And how do we exemplify that? Jesus' words in Matthew 16, that we deny ourselves, we take up our cross, and we follow him. We become his example. That's our why. We are called to be spiritual contributors, not consumers. We are to be the example of Jesus in what we do. It's the idea of the James equation. Perseverance plus what? Maybe we need another review. Perseverance plus action multiplied by understanding gives us the faithful way of life. So if we have a mission, see, and that's just it, like we've always said, God's church doesn't have a mission. God's mission has a church. So we have a why. We need to create our why under that mission, and it's our identity, our DNA, what we're made of. I threw this concept out to you. We are an intergenerational family of vulnerable and broken people seeking a life biblically centered and fully devoted to Jesus in order to learn to love God completely and love all people genuinely. And if this is the identity that we have, then the foundation of our purpose is set to know Jesus and to make him known. And if we have the why, then we can build on that into the what. And the what is just that. It's the ideas that we stand on that encompass the why and lead us to develop our how. We had biblical examples because we do have examples of the idea of what. Exodus 20, the 10 Commandments. And Jesus' follow-up later in Matthew 22 of the greatest commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. To love God completely and love all people genuinely. The why and the what. And we said that in order for the why to be encompassed in the what, we needed some sort of like core value system or code of conduct or however you wanted to find it. And I gave us a couple ideas of starting points for this. And the first one was this, that we choose people over product. We choose people over product, and it means that we choose to value each person for who they are and not just what they can offer. We value the presence of people in ministry over whatever the outcome of said ministry might be. Because until we value people first, we'll have no value in the what that we do. Valuing people first will exemplify the why, give value to our what, and produce greater fruit from our to-be-determined how. The second thing I talked about was that we will choose joy over perfection. And we talked about Mary and Martha and the two examples in this. Joy over perfection means that we choose to dream the impossible rather than just accept the possible. We choose to be big bet risk takers and not comfort zone box sitters. And until we choose to live in the joy that comes from a relationship with Jesus, we're only going to accept our finite reality. And our finite reality is not the idea or concept or process or realm that our God lives in. So we need to learn to live outside the realm of the idea of our finite reality and live in the impossible reality that is actually possible under our God. Choosing to live in the power of Spirit will empower us to think outside the box and end up experiencing real, authentic joy in Jesus. So these core values are the codes that we choose. They create a formula or a platform to work out the how that we want to accomplish. We know why we do it, and the what formula gives us an avenue to it. For our what to stand and our how to be effective, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional in our ideas, and we have to be missionally minded in how we do them. Being intentional means we don't do everything under the sun. Remember, we're not going to do 30 things because it'll all end up becoming jumbled and mediocre. It won't be at an excellent level. But we're going to choose instead to maybe do 5 things with complete excellence. We're going to take 5 things that we want to do well to invest in the mission of the why and encompass the what. I gave you an idea of what maybe we might call these. Anybody remember what I said these 5 things might be called? No, we talked about the code. The code's within the what. The how is what? Ministry pillars. And I'm not saying that's what we're going to stick with. I just wanted to have something so that it's recognizable. And we talked about those ministry pillars. Sunday morning experience, first impressions and follow-up, discipleship, next generation, and missions and outreach. And I gave you a basic understanding of that last week. Today, we're going to unpack this. And let me tell you, here's the thing. God gave us the why. He helps us understand the what. But He lets us do the how. Our job within the how, though, is to make sure that our how represents the why and the what. But that means that there are limitless possibilities, okay? And this gets exciting. This morning, we're going to dream together. This morning, we get to create vision together. This morning, we get to discover heart and passion for what some of the how might look like. And I want you to know that anytime following this morning, if you have an idea, you have a thought process, you have something that encompasses an idea within the how that is supported by the why and the what, I hope you'll come talk to me about it. Because we are going to be opening doors to limitless possibilities. As one of the what statements that encompasses with the how that I told you about that I like is we will do anything short of sin to reach people for Jesus Christ. If it's not sin, by golly, let's try it. And the idea that we have to, in order to reach those people no one's reaching, we have to do things no one's doing. So how are we going to make our how encompassed in that idea, fitting with the why and the what that we choose? So let's look at Sunday morning experience first. This is the idea of a start-to-finish mentality on Sunday morning. Now, what does that mean, start to finish? Well, independent research through various organizations have discovered this, that it actually only takes 30 seconds for someone to decide that they are going to return to a church when they visit. Do you know when that 30 seconds starts? When they hit the parking lot. Exactly. So we're talking about the atmosphere that's created from the moment they hit the parking lot. You have 30 seconds. And it actually only goes down from there. When they come in that door, do you know how long they've discovered it takes for a person to decide whether or not they're going to come back a second time? Close, 7 seconds. You have 7 seconds from the time they enter that door till that 7 seconds is up to give them an impression that causes them to want to come back. So the question is, when they walk in that door, is the light and love of Jesus knocking them backward? How are they greeted at the door? Once they pass through that greeting in the door, what's the first thing that they encounter? You have 30 seconds from the parking lot, 7 seconds from the door. Now, once you've made a strong attempt at that, if the light and love of Jesus is hitting them, then from there, like I said, it's start to finish. So then you've got parking lot to preaching, okay? But here's the thing. They haven't decided they're going to come back after they've heard worship, after they've heard a message. Guess what? What I get up here and talk about really has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to come back. Has nothing to do with that. I could preach the most spirit-empowered sermon, just exploding the walls off a place, incredible points, scripture lifting off of the page. But if they weren't greeted at the door and nobody talked to them when they come in and they sat in the back row, it's not going to matter. It's not going to make any difference. So we have to be intentional and missional in how we are going to cause the experience or allow the experience to happen when they walk from the parking lot to the door and inside that door. It is of the utmost importance to let people know that they are loved, valued, and that Jesus is real for them in that time frame. That can only be expanded upon through the worship, the media, the message, the prayer, and everything else that we do. That's why it's still start to finish. All our worship and our announcements, etc. And I want to paint a picture here real quick for you, just a little piece of what we might be able to see, what we could do using media. This is something they've discovered as well. When someone gets up here and they decide to give announcements, okay, and they got a piece of paper or something with 5 or 6 things that are going on, and they begin, most people after the first announcement, they've checked out. They're not listening anymore. And most of that is due to the fact that most people recognize that all the information that they're spouting off up there, I can find that here, or I can find it on Facebook or on the website, or I'll be able to find that other places. If I need to know, it's there. Or, even in the grand scheme of things, if I need to know, I'll call the office. They always have that information. So how do we create something that is connective and relational, that makes announcement more fun, but allows us to highlight 1 or 2 major things that we want to make sure everybody knows? They say on a Sunday morning that you should probably do, if it affects 80+% of the people in your congregation, your church family, you should be talking about it on a Sunday morning. If it affects 50%, it should be in all of your communicative outlets. And if it affects less than 50%, it needs to be by word of mouth to those who would most likely want to be involved. So not everything is necessarily projected from up here. I wonder if it would be fun. Here's an idea for you. I'm going to put this one out there. What if on a Sunday morning, between the worship being done and the message starting, we had a video that popped up as a transition piece? In that video, 1 or 2 major things that were upcoming were highlighted. Right now, we might be highlighting things like, say, Christmas Eve service, or talking about donations for the Advent auction, things of that nature. Maybe those are the 2 things. But we do this in a way that is connective and relational. Maybe there's a character somebody creates around Christmas time, and that character does the announcements of that. Or we tap into the creativity of people who can write sketches, and it's a sketch-based announcement. Or maybe we've got some people in the church that just like the idea of being able to have an outlet of being on camera. They would never get up here and say it, but put me in front of a camera and let me be creative with it, and we'll have some fun with it. Not to mention in that you can get with people who can develop graphics, who want to pick out some music. All of a sudden, you're creating a team, and you're creating a relational connection between people who have that outlet and that gifting, and now you've built a whole new ministry just off the idea of doing announcements in a video format on a Sunday morning. Now we're starting to feed into people and the value they have. We're choosing people over product. Rather than the same person standing up here every Sunday, now you have a group of people that you're valuing. And because of the value they have, they become invested in something. And that investment then benefits the whole. That's just one idea that I want to share with you. I'm going to bring Donnie up here because I want him to share with you just a couple minutes, kind of give a visionary idea of the idea of worship. There are so many ideas and concepts that we can go forward with music and presentation and media-wise in that way. But I want him to kind of share with you just a few thoughts he has as our leader of that ministry of just a few things that are on his heart that he would love to see us start to move forward. And I want you to hear from him on that since he leads it.
I didn't realize I was going to go first. A couple of things that I've been talking about with Luke and a couple of other members of the worship team is a worship in the round night. And basically, we'd either do it probably in the foyer over there or the fellowship hall, or when the new building gets built, that's where we would do it. And the long short of what you do is you turn off the lights, and everybody stands in the circle, and then you have a worship night in that manner. So one of my favorite things, and I've said this many times, is to hear the praises of God's people. There's a song called The Sound of the Saints that, if you ever get a chance, listen to it. It sums up my ideas perfectly on what I feel worship is and what it sounds like to me. It's more beautiful than the angels singing. So that's one of those ideas that I've been mulling over quite a bit and trying to figure out how to do it. Now, currently, our given situation, they may have to wait a little while. But that's one of the ways. Another way is we've been talking about trying to expand our membership up here. I realize that not everybody likes being on stage. I'm totally with that. I get it. I understand it. 17 years of doing this, and I'm still nervous every Sunday morning. So that makes you feel any better. If you are interested, though, please come join us. Like, if it's whether you can play an instrument, whether you can play a song. I mean, I'm open to any ideas on that front, because getting people engaged in worship is such a big deal. And does anybody in here remember when we talked about Meditation in a Tool Shed by C.S. Lewis? It was a couple years ago, so it's been a mean minute. But the point is that Lewis compares looking at a beam of light in a tool shed and what all you can see with that, as opposed to standing in the beam of light looking out the crack. Worship is that standing in the beam. It's the experience of your faith. It's one of the aspects of that. So the things we do between trying to make the music sound good, between adding new music and all those other things, puts that in perspective, that we are trying to create a place where you can come and worship and connect with God through worship. I think that ought to do it.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Donnie. Know this right now. Anything that's shared, anything that we're talking about, anything that hits you, write it down. We're in this together. We're developing this together. Our how does not just come from me up here or other leaders or the board. The how comes from the hearts of everyone who is invested and desires to be invested in the mission of God that we have in Federated Church. So the second pillar that we get to is first impressions and follow-up. Like I said, this is almost a subcontext of the Sunday morning experience, but it carries such a heavy weight within that it forms itself into its own pillar. This is the idea of having ministry-based opportunities and teams that are functioning for very intentional and missional purposes on Sunday morning. The idea of hospitality, greeters, hosts, welcome information, etc. Think about this, okay? We talked about this kind of with the Sunday morning experience, okay? When we're thinking of these teams, it brings several ideas to the table, at least several things that come to my mind. One, atmosphere. And atmosphere, like we said, starts from the moment they hit the parking lot, okay? What are they feeling? What are they seeing as they're seeing the building, as they're working their way up? I know, and honestly, sometimes I get annoyed talking about things like this because I'm like, why should it matter? Why should it matter? Well, ultimately, it only matters in the concept that it hits with our why. We want people to hit the grounds of this church and realize they're on holy ground. This is a place where the Spirit of God is alive. So the atmosphere that we create can start that process. But it also comes into play with team mentality. The team mentality of those who are serving in those positions and doing what they're doing on Sunday morning with hospitality and greeters and so on and so forth, the mentality that they have and how they work together to function is of the utmost importance, and to be encompassing the idea of the initial code that we value people over product, that they are completely people-oriented. How many of you in here would say there's no way on earth that you would stand at the door and greet people as they come in, because the last thing you want to do is just have to be that connected to people? I see one honest person at least. Okay. How many of you would say, man, I'd love to stand at the door and greet people as they come in. Man, I love talking with people. And the rest of you, I guess, are just undecided. Okay. To me, this is one of the most exciting parts of what we do. Because the opportunity to invest in people right away when they're coming through the door. I want them to know the light and the love of Jesus when they walk through that door immediately. So having that, good morning, it's great to see you, we're glad you're here. Once they're in, especially if it's new people, imagine if we have a group of people that are hosts, these people that they notice, I don't know that person. I don't know that family. And so they go to that family and they walk up to them. Good morning. I'm Luke. What's your name? Donnie. How long have you been with us here at Federated? 5 years. Okay. For the sake of... You're killing me, Smalls. For the sake of what we're doing, just tell me it's your first time.
First time.
First time. Oh, that's awesome. So what made you decide to come and join us?
Really cool new building.
Really cool new building. All right. Well, we're excited about it too, and we've got a lot of dreams and visions for that. Would you like to see it? I'd love to take you over and just show you real quick. Sure. Yeah. I see you got kids. Do you think they're going to be going into children's church, or do you think they're just going to stay with you since it's your first time?
Probably, I don't know, send them off
Okay. Well, tell you what, after I show you the building, why don't I take you to where our children meet so that you can see where that's at, and I'll introduce you to the teacher for this morning to try it so that you know who they're going to be with and where they're going to be.
That'll work.
Talk about disarming somebody. Not only are you serving them in that moment, but you've just disarmed any fear they have of being in a new location. And let me tell you, when you do meet somebody you don't know, there's a reason why I phrased what I phrased. I said, how long have you been with us at Federated? Because you don't know the answer to that question. I've been in churches where there have been people who have used it. What you don't say is, oh, is this your first time? You don't say that. That'll immediately kill you right there from any further conversation. I have met people who did that in other churches. They did it. Oh, is this your first time? Well, no, actually, we've been here for 3 years. Ouch. That hurts. But to look at somebody and say, how long have you been with us? It allows them to express that. And then if they say it's the first time, what drew you? What came? Hopefully what we'll hear is, oh, I was invited to come. So-and-so invited me. Oh, that's awesome. How long have you known them? Oh, my family's known them for years. That's so cool. But disarming them in a way where we make them feel welcome, comfortable, informed, like they're already a part of what we're doing. And offering them in that way. Once you've shown them the kids, then it's like, if we have a hospitality ministry, we've got coffee made, we've got snacks out, and it's like, hey, would you like a cup of coffee? Would you like some cheese and crackers, or whatever it is that we might have available to them? And then you say, feel free to go take a seat wherever you feel comfortable this morning. We're so excited that you're here. If you have any other questions, you just find me. It's a good song, Rich Mullins' Creed. When we're doing this also, we can add to the joy of this by having a connection card within our program bulletin or within the seats. And if they felt welcome enough, hopefully they'll fill that out. And if they fill that out, we say, please take that to our welcome counter where you can introduce yourself to our welcome team. And they have a gift. If you go give them that Connect card to let us know you were here, they have a gift that we'd love to give you this morning as a thank you for joining us. And that whole process, it just disarms them, brings them into the love and the light of Jesus, and makes them realize that we're glad they're here. We hope they'll come back, and we love for them to be a part of the mission that God has given us here. That stems into the third pillar, discipleship. And discipleship is such an unbelievably powerful thing. This is the one that I'm like, if there's a church that doesn't have a focal point on discipleship, I think that church is missing the point. Because when we look at the why, the mission that he's given us, how is that not the absolute definition of discipleship? And what Jesus did in relational ministry and feeding into people and loving them, he was discipling them toward his truth. This is the calling that we have. This is the ultimate pillar. And we have the opportunity to do this in various ways, and I think it's important for us to strongly work toward encompassing those. And through my time of study, through my time of mentorship with other guys who have built successful ministries in this and who have fed into me and books I've read, this is my breakdown. And it doesn't have to go this way. This is just my breakdown. First, we have relational ministry and relational discipleship. Relational discipleship is like small groups, life groups. Now, don't get this wrong. This is about doing life together. This isn't necessarily about study. Life groups are meant to be a relational building source where you invest in each other through doing life together and being a smaller, intimate community of the greater church family. You're not asked to do studies or to watch video series or anything like that. No. Get together at each other's houses. Invest in each other's children if it's a younger group. Go out to dinner. Have somebody babysit the kids and you all go do an escape room and dinner together. Do something. Be together. Be intentional and missional by building the community through relational discipleship with each other. And then, when those times of suffering come, who are you going to turn to? Who's going to be the ones that are... The church as a whole is always going to be there for that. But that crew of people, man, they're going to hold you up like none other. We all need that. We all need those relationships, those friendships, those tie-ins. That's relational discipleship, doing life together, an intentional, personal investment. The second is educational discipleship. This is Sundays, midweek programs, youth, children. This is the idea that most of us think about when we think about general discipleship. It's an educational process. I really hope, and I'm really excited at the idea of starting a larger idea of a midweek programming. This would be where we can offer Bible studies, intentional classes like parenting or marriage or financial budgeting or things of that nature. Our youth already meet on Wednesday nights. We can continue to just do Wednesday nights. That's fine. I don't care what night it is as long as we're actually doing something. Maybe it starts at 5:30 with a fellowship meal. We have dinner. And then for an hour after that, there's classes. And those classes... Guys, let me tell you, I've had conversations with a lot of you in here, and there's a lot of you in here that have an unbelievably given ability that you may not recognize that you could lead a class. Some of you right now are shaking. But you can. And honestly, I believe you should. I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not taking the opportunity to do that. But in that, we might have a women's-based Bible study or a men's-based Bible study. There are all kinds of limitless possibilities that we could do with that and provide partial assimilation in that, which is part of the third area, and that's spiritual discipleship, the idea of counseling, the idea of leading toward baptism, the idea of assimilation through the process of discipleship. And that's very close to that's very directly related to the idea of the Great Commission of making disciples. And this is taking people a whole step further, one step at a time in their relationship with Jesus. This is why then in the educational side, we work with the idea of financial classes and marriage classes and parenting classes and worldview classes, learning to understand other worldviews so that you can better understand your own faith and defend it. To assimilate that process, that is spiritual discipleship and development. And it is done. Every single one of these carries over into the other. The last one, wait. I forgot about some of the spiritual, very specific spiritual I want to address. Eventually, I hope we have some sort of a welcome class. I did one up in Indiana called the Second Mile. I would love to develop with some of you something like this. An idea it's one night, dinner, fellowship, and then we just take you through the ideas of the history of Federated Church, the authenticity of who we want to be, the core values that we stand upon, the belief system that we do and how we function, and being able to invest in people that way, new people that want to participate and become partners in what we're doing, but they need to understand who we are and what we're about, our DNA, so that they are in line with that. And if they are, then boom, let's make them partners. Let's bring them in. Let's add their value to what we're doing. Another major way that I think we can do spiritual discipleship, and I hope this will eventually come to fruition. I was a part of a group and a ministry up in Indiana called The Way. How many of you in here have heard to walk to Emmaus? Okay. The Way is a completely non-denominational version of that. And it is an unbelievable, deep discipleship experience, an intense retreat weekend of spiritual nature where people are literally exposed to the utmost depths of Jesus Christ. It is incredible. I have literally seen people go from atheist to believer over this weekend. It is a powerful tool that when we have that facility finished, we have the opportunity potentially to bring this in and be the next location of The Way. And the teams that I'm tied to up in Goshen, Indiana, are rip-roaring and ready to help us make it happen, to expand this ministry in the powerful ways that God uses it, and for us, for Federated Church and Kingfisher, Oklahoma, to be the next location. And let me tell you, some people might go, Kingfisher, Oklahoma, interesting location, just add something. Well, okay, it's in Goshen, Indiana, Tampa, Florida, Jamaica, and Ireland. That's the 4 locations where The Way exists right now. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, for those that would be involved with it, take leadership in it, and be on team for it, you have to have gone through it and experienced it. Well, you can go to any one of those locations if you want to. So if you're really feeling like, ooh, I want to do this, and you want to go to Ireland and experience it, go to Ireland and experience it. That's fine. Most of us, I think, hopefully would take a road trip up to Goshen and go through the team of people that I know up there. They're an unbelievably great group of people, and I love them. The last idea of discipleship is intentional discipleship. And intentional is something that we eventually will get to. The only intentional discipleship that we have actually functioning right now is our youth. That's where we're looking at very specific groups of people: men, women, singles, college, whatever you want to call it. We have to establish a community within the other areas of discipleship before we can expand into a full-fledged idea of the intentional discipleship, because the intentional has to have the foundation of the others to stand upon. The next pillar is next generation, next gen. It's our students and our youth. It's our children's ministries and activities, our family ministry, everything we do encompassing all of that. But again, I think the people to talk about that are Adam and Leslie. So I'm going to have them come and share with you real quick on the idea of our children and youth ministries, specifically youth.
Okay. Well, you know that we help with youth group. We're Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock, and kind of foundational things that we talk about stem from what we call 5 devotions. So if you look through Scripture, there's 5 devotions. 4 of them are together in Acts 2:42, saying they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, which they had the apostles, but we have Scripture, so we say Scripture. Fellowship, the breaking of bread, and the prayers. So we try to do each one of those things each week. And then Titus 3:14, and let people learn to devote themselves to good works so as to help out cases of urgent needs and not be unfruitful. So one of the things that we're excited about and like to teach our youth is those 5 devotions. And can you imagine if we were really devoted to those things, what it would look like? So there's a short bit on youth, and we're excited.
The final pillar that we invest in is missions and outreach. And next to discipleship, I think this is probably potentially the most important thing that we do. And this is going to be through local community and through international reach and partnerships. But before I really get into that, Patty, come on up. Patty's going to represent for the missions team, and she's going to share a little bit about where we're at with that, and maybe even some goals that they would have moving forward if they do. And I know you're going to force me to interact with you on this. So
probably. Okay. when I was asked to speak on this, the first thing I thought about is, what does it really say to be a mission church, or what does it say to be a missionary? You can go to Google and find about anything, good, bad, or indifferent. But the one thing I found, it says, what is mission biblically? Biblically, a Christian mission is an organized effort to spread Christianity to new converts. Mission involves sending individuals and groups called missionaries across boundaries to carry on evangelism of other activities such as educational or hospital work. And then in Matthew 28, what does it say? We all know this one. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We have a very active mission church, a very active mission team. And I'm going to ask Luke, when he first got here, what his first impression was of the members of our church. Specifically on the day you moved in.
Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. The heart of service exists well beyond the boundaries of these walls. It's large, it is active, and it is desired. And that is to be highly commended.
Thank you. So it never fails with our church, our hearts and our giving. We have a mission team, but that mission team is just the people that bring ideas to our members. We take great pride in what we do, how we do it, and how we represent our church. So just to name a few things, you guys know all these things. We had a cement mixer out in the lobby. We needed to fill it so we could send it overseas with things that were desperately needed for a mission group that goes there. Sharon McKelwin, she goes to and supports a orphanage in Zambia. You know, Delinda Barnett and Mercy Kids of America, she's constantly digging wells and getting water to places that need them. You guys are very instrumental, and many of you have been to Casa Hogar in Mexico and done the work and experienced the love and the joy of those children down there. We support Kelly Kopp locally. Kelly's constantly on the go, being an evangelist for the Word of Christ, and he carries us with him everywhere he goes. Building All Children, you know, a new playground in town. We've also contributed to the Lutheran Church Comfort Dog Fund. They train dogs to help people that have had bad experiences, and we are really involved in that. But just so you know, this is a plug for the Advent auction donations. You know, we do a lot of things with that money that was raised at the Advent auction, and I'm saddened to hear we're not going to have one, but I know that our church is going to come through, and we're going to be able to continue to do Meals on Wheels and Toys for Tots and Salvation Army and the food bank. We contribute to the schools, and some of the big things that we do are Bags of Hope. We give, you know, toiletries to people that need them. We do backpacks and school supplies for children that are less fortunate. Electric bills, we help with those. Gas bills during the winter. We have times we've had to pay for rooms at Cattleman's for people. But don't think that for a minute we do these things without spreading the word of Christ, because it's a constant that we are always talking about this, and how blessed we are to be able to do these things for people and contribute the words. We have free giveaways. We haven't been able to do that for a couple of times now, but our church has a room full of things that whenever we call, whenever there's a need, our church steps up. We are mission-based, and we don't just do it monetarily. We do it through our words. We do it through our actions. Every day, I am so proud to be involved in this church for over 45 years, just myself and Brian Walter too, of doing missions for our church. We are all involved, and we are all missionaries. It's not just our mission team. It's all of us together. So I want to close with a couple of scriptures. It says, Romans 12:9 says, let love be genuine. And that's what our church is, a genuinely loving church for not just our members, but for everybody in our community and all the projects we're involved in. And the last one is Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And whom will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. That's the Federated Church. here we are, send us, and we will never falter on how we get things done.
Thank you, Patty. We already have so many great ways that we're involved locally and internationally, and I think our partnerships will be able to grow. You'll hear me talk about a couple of those in the future, but if you think about it, you can go and look up Destiny Rescue, or you can look up Sand Springs Community Services. These are two places or two organizations that I think it would be really cool for us to look at investing and partnering with for ministry. So let me sum up these pillars for you with this, as we're thinking through the idea of that building that's going up out there. Because, see, that's not just a building going up. That's an opportunity going up. And we need to be viewing it in that way. Think about this from a view of Sunday morning experience with that building. Children's ministry use on a Sunday morning. Pre- and post-service social activities. Overflow aspects if we need it. Sunday service location, if we need to use that as an actual location for service, or fellowship lunches and meals that we might do at the church. For first impressions and follow-up, the welcome and the meet and the greet with the leaders, having that space, the visual impact of the atmosphere of what that building does. With discipleship, small group and life group space use, midweek programs with our classes and our youth, the future welcome classes or assimilation use in there. Worship events, I totally missed that one. Future men's and women's events, a basketball example. Wouldn't it be cool if we had like an open gym night where families could come and play, or even a men's basketball night where we could actually have an opportunity halfway through to stop and a 10-minute devotional from one of the guys and some prayer and then go back to basketball. Being able to invite people to that. It disarms them to invite them for basketball, but then we're missionally minded by putting in just a little bit of a devotional. And of course, the way, if that was to come, that would be a huge use. For our next generation, Wednesday night youth and their events, family events, whether it's movie nights, game nights, seasonal events with spring, fall, Halloween, open gym nights. Think about this, big dream. John, you and I talked about this, an after-school program. What could we potentially do as an after-school program? And for missions and outreach, growth of the free giveaway. Oh, can you imagine that room being where everything was set up? Partnership events with other ministries that might do, and community programming that we could do. See, we can dream in limitless ways. There is no cap put on how we can do this. The how is up to us, as long as the why is behind it and the what guides it. Pass or fail, doesn't matter. We're going to go in passionately. If we're going to succeed in this, we're going to do it aggressively and passionately. But if we're going to fail, we're going to do it aggressively and passionately. Doesn't matter if we fail. If we fail, we learn from it. We move on. We try something else, and that's okay. Because if we went at it with everything that we have, that's all that matters. We tried it, and we did our best. We can only learn from what doesn't work and use it to be better. There's only certain questions that remain now at this point. Are you guys ready to join together and to lead toward the future? Are you ready to work toward future success? Are you ready to dream the impossible rather than just live in what we think is possible? And as we do so, we keep the mission constant, but we allow how we accomplish that to change? Because we can have control, or we can have growth, but we can't have both. Let's pray. Father, thank you that you allow us the opportunity to do the how. But even more thanks should be given that you, Father, give us the why in which we ground that on, and you lead us in the what that it's all about, so that the how can be set upon that foundation. Father, again, we lift up those who are struggling right now, and we ask again for your healing power on that group of people. We ask for your wisdom and your guidance going forward, that we may seek you in every decision that we make, so that the why remains constant. We love you, Lord, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.